Hello and welcome. My name is Stuart Rowell, also known as Silvertooth. You are tuned to the Liverpool Connection Music and Football Podcast. It's good, so keep it locked.
Hi everyone, welcome to the Liverpool Connection Podcast. This is my music and football episode where I usually bring on somebody that's into the two loves, which is music and football. Today is all about music, and I can't wait to introduce my next guest. He's a label boss of 49 North, and he is one half of the incredible legendary group Spooky with Charlie May. It's Duncan Forbes. Welcome to the pod, mate.
Hi, Dan. Really good to meet you, man.
I am going to go straight into it. I want to know kind of your roots in music, and did your mum and dad like have an effect on like your musical influences?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, my parents split when I was three, and then got married. It was all quite fine. You know, they found other partners quite quickly, and so I sort of lived between the two worlds. And yeah, they were both. There was always music on. My dad particularly, when he used to have one of those 8 tracks in the car, and it was always stuff like Dylan and Simon and Garfunkel. It was all pretty mainstream, sort of pop like that. And my mum, I suppose, pretty much the same. I mean, I've still got one of her Nancy Sinatra records, actually, which is a big treasured vinyl of mine. It's got that Sam Velvet Morning track on it, which is just amazing. And then just sort of slowly found it for myself. I think my granny, actually, and my dad's mum, when I was about 6, gave me this little red transistor radio, which I had by my bed. And I just used to listen to it at night, you know, and on Sunday mornings and stuff, you know, sort of Radio 2 and Radio 1. So it was really, you know, I was growing up in the West Country then. So it's kind of, it was really just all the mainstream stuff I came across. It was only later on that I kind of discovered all the indie stuff. But, you know, the parents definitely, my dad always had it, and he had records, and whenever I went round there. And I sort of progressed from that to getting one with a tape machine on it, and basically about the age of 9, just recording the charts and editing it, and then just playing it to my mates, which I suppose my sort of original DJ sets. So yeah, that was it. It's always been in my life. My uncle was before he had to go into the army and give it up. He was a really good saxophonist in a band called Five Got Rhythm, and they were on the 6-5 special in the 60s, and he was playing kind of sort of, it was jazz basically. And he was always, when he's down at my granny's, he was always playing the piano and stuff. So yeah, I mean, it's always been there.
Instrument wise, did you learn early
Well,
on?
unfortunately, I got sort of pushed into playing the piano about between the ages of 7 and 9. I gave it up as soon as I could, because I just couldn't handle doing all the rudiments, and it just wasn't my thing, you know. It wasn't. It was so far removed from the music I was listening to. But I got into the drums when I must have been 11 or 12. I think I got my first kit when I was 13. And I had drum lessons at school, and there was this great guy called Ron Armstrong, who's a jazz drummer, and I used to play at the school on Monday. He'd come in, and I'd sit down. He'd just get me to play to records. That was it, you know. No, you know, the basic movements and stuff like that, but just literally, here's this Michael Jackson record or Sade or whatever. Just lock in on that groove. I don't want any fills. I just want you to play to it, and that was it. I was off like the bug. I mean, drums were my thing, and right up until just before we started Spooky, I was still playing drums in funk bands and stuff like that. That was my thing.
Yeah.
Working in a pub so I could play my drums, and that was it.
Well, you can bang out your anger as well.
100%.
You know.
Yeah. Yeah.
My dad had a collection of guitars, and he had
Nice.
his favorite, which was a Gibson. And when I was 5 years old, I decided to repaint it, which he was not very happy with.
Whoops.
Yeah. Well, he'd have his little sound studio in the garage, and
Okay.
I just went in there, and I just loved how the guitar sounded, but I just didn't like how the Gibson looked. So I just got some household paint, and I literally went to town. And
Wow. Was it
yeah,
like was it an SG, like the classic rock one, or was it like a semi-acoustic one with
no,
the horns in it?
it was the rock one.
It was an SG, yeah.
Yeah, he was absolutely livid, and then you've got the other side where my mum's like, "Oh, bless Darren." She just like smiled and laughed while my dad just, I've never seen my dad so angry in all my life. I mean, my dad's a rocker,
Yeah.
he's a brummie. So
The Les Paul or something, probably a guitar.
yeah, he went to school with Ozzy, in
Okay.
a little place called Redknall in Birmingham. And yeah, he's a massive Deep Purple, Black Sabbath. So yeah, I saw the
Okay.
tears of anger come down his face that day. But yeah. So that's a lesson I learned: never ever to touch my dad's guitars ever again. So
You went the whole painting it though. That's classic.
yeah. It's weird. I never became an artist though. After that, that was my one and only painting I've probably ever done in my entire life. So yeah, that's one of my little stories. But were you a Top of the Pops family?
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
Thursday
Every week.
nights.
Yeah, every week religiously. Yeah.
Did
I think it
you
was that and Doctor Who were the two things that were just regular features in the house.
Yeah, always seems like all the guests, like especially, our age, it's
Yeah.
Thursday nights, having tea with the
Yeah.
family, watching Top of the Pops, and then,
Yeah.
most kids that I know would have the tape recorder.
Yeah.
I'd tape Top of the Pops, and I'd do the same as you, make a little,
Yeah.
set from it, and then,
Yeah.
some of my mates who hadn't watched Top of the Pops, I'd go around and go, I've got the show, these are the good parts. And that was my, introduction to kind of messing around with stuff.
Yeah.
And
Spreading the love.
Were you the same?
Yeah, very much so. Yeah. I was in the charts on Sunday. I used to record on Radio One.
Mm-hmm.
Just wait for the ones I really wanted, and then I literally make up compilations out of it, and then and then started getting a bit more complicated when you're recording from tape to tape to get them in the right order, and yeah.
It's just messing around until you kind of figure stuff out. I mean that's technology, isn't it?
Yeah, totally. No, it was great. I mean, I miss cassettes actually. They were great. I mean, I know there's been a resurgence of them now within a particular niche, but I don't think they're ever really going to kind of appear majorly. Having said that, I did find a copy of Found Sound actually on cassette the other day, shrink wrapped as well, which was quite a nice find.
I was watching on YouTube, I think a couple of weeks ago, I watched like a hip hop DJ on two cassette decks, and I was just mesmerized by it because he's scratching with the cassette.
Wow.
I'm just going, how is that possible? I understand, reel to reel.
Yeah.
It's big, but these cassettes are like this big, and he's just, mixing it, and I'm
That's
just
so cool.
wow, and it's different. And I mean, I miss the old headphones with the Walkman, walking down.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I can still remember the first time I ever put one of those on. I was like, wow. It was just blew my mind. Absolutely blew my mind. I can still remember it was in Paris, and I was with some mates, friends of the family, and this elder sister of a mate of mine who I really fancied, and she had this original Walkman and just put it on. I think it was Blondie, Heart of Glass, I think I was listening to. Yeah, it just blew my mind. That was it. Everything just suddenly, wow, sound all around me. That's it. That was a real trigger.
I mean, being able to, growing up, and you can only really use your mum and dad's stereo, put those massive, they weighed 20 pounds on your head, but then being able to just walk on the street,
Yeah.
headphones on and your Walkman on the clip.
Yeah, no, totally. Well, we didn't have any headphones in our house at all. I mean, the hi-fi was very much kind of shut away in a cupboard, and the speakers were hidden as well. I was in there all the time, but yeah, but there were no headphones.
Oh wow.
Yeah, just vinyl.
To anyone that doesn't know what vinyl is, it's
that stuff back there behind.
Yeah, it's so funny. Like I mean, I am still like when I open brand new vinyl, the smell.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I know it's a weird thing for some people, but just taking the plastic off.
Oh, I love it. Yeah.
Pulling out. I'm one that like I would read everything on, and especially if it's a gatefold.
Yeah.
The word on the because that's the whole thing. I think with vinyl is not just the vinyl itself, but the package that it comes.
The whole thing. Yeah, that's the art. The art completely. The art is a major part of it. I mean, I still love it. I still buy way too much vinyl as far as the rest of the family are concerned. More and more shelves going up. I love it. So I've created an amazing collection that my kids, they're very respectful of it, and they kind of follow my taste. Well, they haven't had much choice, but so yeah, it will be there for them. After I've gone.
That's what you want. I mean, it's a part of history. Music.
So much, and we're in quite a good time at the moment because there's a lot of stuff that was so hard to find that's being reissued, and we may never have this time again. I don't know how long the vinyl technology. It's popular again. Whether it's going to always be like that, it will be with a certain niche, I think. But whether it's going to be cost effective to do all these reissues, so that's my excuse for buying loads at the moment, anyway.
Well, when did like the acid house come in for you? I mean, when did you just do? Were you
okay? Well, it's quite a complex journey. So I went from being in this band. Actually, Charlie May was in the band I was in beforehand. He was playing keyboards and I was playing drums. We grew up together. I've known him since I was 6 weeks old or something. Our mum was pushing us around together in pushchairs. He's like my brother. My parents weren't really together long enough to have any more kids, so I'm an only child. And that band fell apart, and I'd already sacked off my university just because I wanted to be in the band, and then a few months later it all fell apart, and I was like, oh my god, what am I going to do anyway? So I started working for a company called Handle Recruitment, which is a sort of music biz temp agency, because I was like, well, if I can't make it as a band, I'm going to go into the industry. So I was putting like cassettes on Pete Tong's desk, and this must have been in like 1988 or something, and I didn't even know who he was then. I wasn't really into acid house because it had hit, and my friends were going to raves, and quite a few of them were organising them. But I'd been a drummer, and I was very anti-drum machines at that time. Because it was like, oh no, it's going to put us all out of work. It was just madness, really. But and then I went to a party down near where I grew up, and there was a guy playing a Brian Eno record, and I went over to him and had a chat with him. And by the end of the night, he'd offered me a job, and he was running a very small acid house label out of Denmark Street in a basically pretty much a cupboard in the back of what was acid jazz on the first floor of Denmark Street. And it was called Brainiac Records, and I worked there and helped put out the records, and eventually became label manager. But during the evening, I'd be going out giving flyers for all the clubs, because it worked out of the Brain Club in Wardour Street, which was mainly gay, but they had straight nights on Wednesdays and Fridays. Friday, like Billy Nasty did a night there, and characters like that, and so that's really where I got into it, that side of it. And I was very lucky when I joined. They just signed this band called Ultramarine, and they'd done an album called Every Man and a Woman is a Star, which I don't know if you know, but if you don't, you need to track it down. It's one of the greatest sort of folky electronic albums ever, I think. and it was produced and mixed by a guy called Jolly James, who was Colin Plum was his real name. He was part of Meet Me Manifesto, and he was the boyfriend of Linda, who was the partner of Tim I was working with. So I was in this really interesting scene, and then you've got Eddie Pillar and Dean Rudland running acid jazz, literally in the front. So there's all of that music going on, and I'm in Soho, and you've got, I'm basically taking promos of all this new stuff. Andy Weatherall did a remix for Deep Joy, another classic remix that was on the label just as I was going. So what I had to do was take all the promos out to the white labels, basically out to all the record shops around Soho and different parts of London, right out the East End. They lent me the club lent me a car, little Vauxhall Nova, which I drove around in with all my records in the back. And so parking up on double yellow lines, running in with the latest tunes and just giving them a box, and then swapping them for stuff that I really wanted, and US imports and stuff like that. And that sort of snowballed, and to supplement my income, because I wasn't earning very much, Tim suggested I take on a few other labels. So he put me in touch with Red Jerry, so I was doing Hooge. Then put me in touch with Dick O'Dell at Gorilla. So I started doing some of their early stuff, the Bassomatic stuff, and I had these really, and then Eddie said, well, why don't you take some acid jazz records around? So the Sandals and early Jamiroquai and things like that. So I had all these really hot records with me. So because of that, I met everyone. I met, Quaff. There was Don Moyer, Roy the Roach, Rocket, who then started Ambient Soho. In Black Market, there was obviously Nicky Black Market. You had Phil Asher, bless him, who's sadly no longer with us. Ray, Ashley Beadle was working in the shop there. And then Flying, you had Rocky and Diesel and Dean Thatcher. And City Sounds, you got Ray Keith. And you got Billy Nasty up in Zoom, and Rob Mello up in, what's up? I can't remember the name of I think he was up in Zoom as well. It gets a bit blurry, but they were all there. Everyone who became the scene were all in these shops, and that's where it all started from. That London scene particularly. And I was just right in the thick of it. And Charlie and I started making music again. It was a bit of a rift after the band fell out, and anyway, he had a bed sit around the corner from me in Streatham. I was living in a shared house somewhere in Clapham South, and he had a sampler and a couple of keyboards, and I bought a drum machine at 909 with profits for some of the records that I was selling. We just started making beats, and one day when I was in Gorilla picking up some records, we did a track, and I put it was Don't Panic, actually, very early version, but I just left on Dick O'Dell's desk in Gorilla. I said, just give that a listen at some point. Anyway, didn't hear anything from him. I'd forgotten about it. 2 weeks later, I'm in the Brainiac office. He rings me up and goes, that tape you gave me? He said, it's really good. I was like, oh, cool. Yeah. He said, yeah, well, I want to put you in William Orbit studio with Didge and Rich from Reactor Rhythm. And that was it. We went up there, did a couple of mixes with them. Then we went back to Boundary Row and did our own mix. And we toured for about 20 years off the back of it. I mean, that's the sort of, in a nutshell, how it all started.
For Gorilla, that was like early prog. Such a great label.
Clubhouse Disco, they called it. Clubhouse Disco, because it was a blend of those things. But
I remember getting the first Clubhouse Disco Volume 1. And it was something like, obviously Liverpool was a little bit different from London. So it was the first hearing that I was like, I like it and I want some more. It was just, very dubby. Especially the bass lines. Oh my God.
Yeah.
It was something, like I said, I'd never heard before. And I just tracked everything down on Gorilla. And it was quality. I mean, for you and Charlie, obviously, Spooky is on everyone's. If you're a prog head, Spooky is one of the first ones that comes to mind. Back in that day, because '93 is when you put out Gargantuan. Now, because not many albums were by electronic artists were coming out. World, but an Orbital, but like you were in a small group. I mean, that must have been a massive undertaking for you. Were you,
Yeah, it was. I suppose it was. We didn't really kind of think about it. We were just so like excited, and it's just it was just like wow, people are paying us to make music. It's like, and we hadn't even thought about playing live then. That came later, and I'll come to that. Um, and yeah, I mean, the Mixmag then was basically a 4-sheet um, of reviews of singles, and they weren't really they didn't even have an album section because there weren't that many dance music albums. There were a few compilations that London were doing, and you had stuff that came out of the indie scene like Meat Beat Manifesto, and obviously you mentioned Orbital, and I'm trying to think what else there were. There was at Neutron 9000, Dominic Woozy, he made a great album called The Greenhouse Effect, and there were a few of these kind of compilations, Shum compilations and stuff like that. But yeah, no, it was again, it was that we were at the right time. We came to the table, and we were different because a lot of the house music came from a soul background, and we came from an indie background. We were massively into like those like Talk and the Cocteau Twins and Talking Heads and stuff like that, and 4AD records. So it was very much a melting pot of that. And I was at the same time running around with all these promos, and all the US house was coming through. And as I said, I had all this hot stuff, which I was probably supposed to be giving to the shops, but I was swapping it. So I had all this big collection of all the latest, early Masters at Work records, Todd Terry, all that stuff, and so it was that juxtaposition of US house beats with sort of dubby bass lines and ethereal kind of chords and arpeggios, which is probably the sound of Gargantuan, then with quite soulful vocals on the top. So yeah, none of it was planned. It just kind of happened out of what we were feeling,
I think it's better that way when it's more organic.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. And I mean, to this day, I can say Little Bullet is probably my top 5 records. It just, for me, like, music has to move me. Emotionally, like heart and soul. Yeah, you can put on a club banger and just dance your heart away, but for me, I keep going back to records like that and Gargantuan, because from start to finish, it's a complete album for me. You have some fillers in albums, and you just that was just put in there just because they didn't have enough to fill it. From start to finish, Gargantuan is just it's perfect for me.
It's a journey. I mean, I can actually picture now when I was renting a room for a mate in Wandsworth with all the tapes and just trying to work out the running order for it, and we did put quite a lot of effort into that, getting that right. But no, it's great. I mean, Little Bullet, it's lovely. It just seems to have touched so many people. It's those chords. It's the long release and the way they just merge. It's like a sort of. I mean, Charlie. I remember the track was very different. I remember it was one of the. I think it's probably one of the hardest tracks that we did on the album because it took so long and it didn't have those chords, and then it was complete. And I can't remember what it was beforehand. I think it had the arpeggio and the drums and stuff. But then Charlie just got. My dad had lent us some money and we bought this JD800 keyboard, and he just came up with that sound, and I'm like, oh well, here we go, and that was it. It was just played those chords. I mean, he's just amazing at conveying emotion through chords. It's really is. He's just there's very few people I know that can do that like he does. So it's amazing. I mean, it's the fact that we've just reissued it 30 odd years on. First press sold out, second one's nearly sold out, and there's just a load of love for it still, which is great.
Well, it's great for a new generation to hear it.
Yeah.
I mean, us old folks, we can go on to the younger people and go, you need to listen to this and this and this, but you have to let them find it for themselves as well.
Yeah, totally. Yeah,
because they'll be like, I don't want to listen to you. let me, figure stuff
Yeah.
out.
Away with
And
yeah.
it's great that they're looking back at all these like older records now and going, because the production level, you take a Gargantuan
Yeah.
production and you can put it with anything that's coming out today. And again,
Yeah.
that's why it's so unique, because I've listened to some of the older albums and it's definitely not at the production standard as it is today. But I can say for
Yeah.
your debut album, 100%, you can
Yeah.
still say, oh, if somebody picked that up today for the first time listening to them, I guarantee you
Yeah.
can say that was made 30 years ago.
Yeah, no, I know people have said that to me, and some of my eldest, his mates, discovered it for themselves, and they go, "Is this your dad?" And he goes, "I think so," because he doesn't because he hasn't listened to it, but it's um, but yeah, no, it's a unique thing, and I still wish that studio's been knocked down where we recorded it, and Williams' studio was amazing, but it's just those analog desks that we were using back then, and just the sheer the technology forced us to get it sounding really, really good. You can do everything, all bells and whistles in a computer now, but having an Atari, which is probably going to crash, but before you get to the end of the arrangement, and you're putting it onto tape, gives you a certain discipline of of working. And a lot of that record, we worked with a really good mate of ours called Nick Hale as well, and he was just had an amazing pair of ears. But it was this Amec Angela desk, mixing desk, if you want to get nerdy, that we had in Boundary Row, and then we subsequently bought one later on. And it just, you can't get many things to sound like that now. I spend most of my life now taking stuff out of the computer, putting it through all this to try and recreate the kind of wall of sound that you could have just by having it all. I mean, I've got a live mixing board here too, but not in that league. So yeah, no, I mean, it does sound great, and Jeff Pesh, who mastered it back in the day as well. Jeff's a legend, and he did such a great job on it. I mean, the remaster, we got Simon, who does all my stuff now at the Exchange, mastering down in Devon. He's amazing, and so the new one is a recut, but it's from those original masters because we couldn't really touch them. It's one of those things. It's just we got it right.
Yeah, that's good. But with the album though, did you have like a load more tracks that you kind of had to like wither down to,
No, I really think that was it. And I can remember there was a bit of pressure at the end, and I can't remember it's because I think Something's Got to Give was the last track we were doing, and I was so burnt out. I remember Charlie finished it. I was just literally lying on William's sofa because the studio was in William's front room, and I remember that, and that got really stressful, and that changed. So I think that was it. That's all we recorded. I don't think there were any extra bits from that. There might have been some. I think there was one tune I was thinking out now which had a breakbeat in it, but it never really got beyond demo stage. But that was it was enough. I think it's just, and I think Gorilla by then were like, come on, we need to get the album out, get it going, build it, because they were getting quite excited about it. And when it came out, it was mental. I mean, our lives changed really. It's just suddenly
well, I
kind of.
mean, Duncan, I love how like each album that you've put out is totally different from the one before.
Yeah, there's always a story behind all of that as well.
I mean, it's cliche to always say, I've got a one up. But the second album was, to me, sounded more experimental in what
Oh
you,
God, for sure. Yeah. We pissed off a load of people putting that out to start off with, but we made a completely new audience overnight as well. We went from DJ Mag and Mix Mag darlings to NME darlings. It was bonkers, and
yeah,
people
well,
like.
well, I'm sure you did want to do a Gargantuan part two. That's
Yeah,
the
well,
thing.
I mean, if you want a bit of an explanation about what happened, and there was all sorts of stuff going on. It got very intense, and we did Gargantuan. Off the back of that, we did so many remixes. We did the Sven Fath, we did the William Orbit, obviously, the Water from a Vine Leaf mixes, and then there were loads of others we were doing at the time, and it was all in that kind of same vein. And I think we just got burnt out with it. So we started trying to play around with other ideas, and just before we were due to get all our worldwide royalties from Gargantuan, Gorilla went into liquidation literally the night before we were due to get paid. So we lost. I don't even want to know. So we have actually no idea what the actual sales figures for Gargantuan were. We got quite a lot of the UK money to start off with, but we had quite a big deal with IRS in America. There was a deal in Australia. I subsequently found out there was one in Denmark, and we had one in France with Delabel, part of Virgin. So it sold a lot, and we didn't see a lot of that. So we were like, shit, what are we going to do now? You know, we were like, and actually Nik O'Connor was really, really good, and we got the album back off him. I think he felt terrible, and we did get it back. But a lot of other records on that, they ended up getting absorbed into the Ministry, and then people lost control of their music. It was a dark time, and so we were like, we need some money. So we got a publishing deal, and we got quite a big publishing deal with a nice fat advance, and then we were looking at record labels, and we had like Sire Records. Seymour Stein was, signed Talking Heads and all of that. He was after us. So we went out to America, but that wasn't right. We had a deal with A&M on the table, which was cool, but I didn't want to go with A&M America. So then we tried to reinvent the music industry to try and get two rival companies to work together, and that wasn't obviously going to work. So we ended up going with A&M. We said, look, we don't really want to be on a major. We're not, we want. So they had helped us set up our own independent label called Generic through A&M. But the contractual time signing to A&M took so long, we probably ditched nearly an album's worth of material by the time we got to it. Got to actually writing, which is why Found Sound was so different. But because between Gargantuan and Found Sound, we discovered Aphex Twin, and all the music had changed as well. It really had what we were listening to as cutting edge, and we did. Stereo, and we did all those EPs, and that was more like a gap bridger. That was probably the second album, although it wasn't. Funny enough, Expander would have been on the follow-up to Gargantuan, which then became the Sasha track, but we never finished it. We played it live a few times, but we never got around to finishing it, and then we fell out with A&M, and he heard it on a DAT one day and was like, oh, what's that, Charlie? And that was it. So he completely reworked it. But so that's why. But I'm still very, very proud of Found Sound, and it doesn't sound like anything else. And Charlie's engineering on it is amazing. Sounds and all the. It's just I think we're probably going to reissue that because people have been asking a lot. But there's a whole story about that as well. I mean, we'd fallen out with A&M so badly by this point because the A&R man thought he was going to get Blue Lions or something. We've done Gargantuan, soulful vocals, beats. We're going to do like a massive attack, and he wouldn't even come down. He said, no, I just want to hear it when it's finished. Big mistake, because by the time he did hear it, I mean, he actually walked out of the listening meeting halfway through. It's like, and yeah, which can you imagine how that feels as an artist? Like, oh, we were so proud of it as well, and so Osman Eralp, who was running A&M at the time, took us under his wing, and he signed James Lavelle and did Mowax, and he just helped us get it all out, make films for it, and we pumped loads of money into it, loads of their money. And obviously we were never going to recoup that. So at some point the accountants were like, hold on, look, what's this spooky lot we've got here? We can see Janet Jackson and Bryan Adams and stuff. They're doing really well, but what's this hole that's been created here? And that was us. So we got into a situation where we couldn't work together unless we were spooky. And they wanted us to do an album with vocals. So that was it. We split up. It all imploded. But at this time, because we weren't in touch with the label, there were things going on that we didn't realise which we could have capitalised. Radiohead used Found Sound as a support on some of their gigs on the OK Computer tour because they were working with Grant G, who'd made the film. So we never got that kind of hook up off the back of that, because I found out only later that they were big fans of the record, and who knows what might have happened off the back of that collab or whatever. But so yeah, it was a mad journey. So yeah, I'm really rambling now. So at some point you got to steer me again.
Well, did that have an effect on yours and Charlie's relationship?
Yeah, no, it really did. Yeah, we gave each other both barrels. I remember sitting at a cafe with our manager, Nigel Templeman, sadly, who passed away. I just only found out a few weeks ago, actually. Really, really awful. And he was like a sort of mediator, and we had a fucking shouting match, and it was in a cafe I can remember opposite Honest John's in Notting Hill. But that didn't last for a while. I went off. He ended up moving out to Switzerland for a bit and working with a guy out there called Alex and doing adverts and stuff like that. And I just dug deep, got my box of records, got all my Red Planet and Luke Slater, and I just went and got my anger out and played full-on techno around Eastern Europe for about 3 years. which was great, and I had a brilliant time. I had a residency in Prague, and I just went and DJ'd. I just had to get the whole thing out of my system, and I had a great time, and I met some wonderful people doing it, and we're still great friends now. Very nearly moved to Prague actually in the late '90s, and then started doing stuff on my own, which is when I hooked up with Rob Deacon, who's also no longer with us, sadly, at Deviant Records, and did my own animated record, which is so that's that kind of chapter.
Yeah, I mean, it's just got to be, you hear of all these bands that have been, childhood friends, and then, either an album deal doesn't materialize, or, they break up during a tour, it just seems so sad that,
It's a lot of pressure,
Yeah, I can't imagine, like, putting out, like I said, your debut album that gets, checks all the boxes, and then kind of wanting to do your own thing for the second album, and then having it kind of laughed at or walked, like you said, somebody just walks straight out the studio while you're playing them that that you've worked so hard on. You've got I'm sure then you start looking at each other going, well, we should have made this decision, you made that decision, not
100%. I think that was going on subliminally, but
not trying to be dickheads to each other, but it I'm sure it just comes out, when you're so close, and not best mates, but you're in the studio 24/7
and living in the same house as well. He was living in my house where the studio was, so it was really it was a really intense time, very intense for us, but we survived it, we got through it. But I mean, I think the thing that really kept us going through all of that time and for longer after A&M was the live gigs, because we were that whole world. I mean, I haven't even spoken about that. I mean, I've just been speaking about the records and the recording, but once we started playing live, our lives changed. And dear Lol, who you spoke to recently, I know, was actually the catalyst for us playing live. He's like, come on, Dan, come on, just, I was like, no, we're a studio band. We're never going to play live. No, it's not. He's like, oh, come on, it's so much fun. And he hooked us up with the Megadog lot. And through that, then we meet Paul and Phil from Orbital, who were like complete heroes of mine. And that just, I think we did our first gig at Heaven, funny enough, which Rob Deacon put on, Heaven, under the arches at Villa Street in London. The night called Trans Europe Express. And, or maybe that was later on. I don't know. It's a bit sketchy somewhere. But I know Lauren Garnier was DJing, and we played live, and that was our first gig. And then the following day, we flew to Roskilde Festival, and with Darren Emerson, and Darren was DJing either side of us, and we were off Jamiroquai, and there was Cypress Hill, and I think Cypress Hill had been on earlier on the same stage. It was our second gig, and we hadn't actually got it together to program up the whole set. It all happened so quickly that a couple of tracks we were literally playing off the vinyl and like kind of tiptoeing around while we loaded up the sequence. I remember Shmoo Dub, we always used to play that to start off with. That was just being played off the vinyl because we hadn't sort of loaded it into the samplers and redone it. And then Moby came on after us, And yeah, that was amazing. And then after that, we were just doing festivals. We did an amazing show at Glastonbury that was on Saturday night, 7 o'clock. First time they ever had the dance stage, and we were between David Holmes and Plastic Man, and the sun was going down, and I remember coming on stage, and it was in a massive tent. It was a Megadog thing, and it was so hot. Suddenly they started taking the sides down from the tent, and I was like, "Oh wow! Thank God, there's going to be some air in here." And they took the sides down, and all you could see were just people all around the tent, just from as far as you could see. Everyone had come down to the dance tent because that's what it was at. So, and that was a spine tingling moment. I think that was '95 Glastonbury, and yeah, and there were just so many of those. But we used to tour with everything. I mean, literally mixing desks, but similar to Orbital. I mean, Paul kind of showed us how they did it, and so we used and the drum club as well. We all used these MMT8 sequencers, and we just had all our synths running along. But at any point a MIDI lead could pop out and the whole thing would stop, and sometimes did. And you'd turn up and you'd open a flight case and synth wouldn't come on, so you'd be trying to under the bonnet trying to get it to work before you went on stage, and it was quite nerve-wracking. Plus you had 500 kilos of excess baggage wherever we went. So I became the master at sweet talking the British Airways check-in desk to try and get off the excess baggage, because it would take half of our fee. But yeah, nearly a amount of times. After that, we started driving around Europe in a big Toyota Previa V6 that we used to rent, and just with all the gear in the back. And our mate Kim would drive, and we'd just fly down the autobahns and go to Berlin. And yeah, that's great times.
I'm sure there's nothing better than to play live. DJing, gives you that kick, but most of the time you're playing somebody else's tracks.
Yeah, totally.
But to play your own stuff, with Charlie live, and just, because you see that with Paul and Phil, Orbital, just look at each other and you just know there's that moment, everything just clicks. And it must be the same for you and Charlie when you're on stage. You're in the zone.
Yeah. I mean, my favourite thing was just literally taking the kick drum out for a few seconds and watching and what happened when you put it back in again. It's just amazing vibes. And we got to play some amazing venues. I mean, I remember Paul Van Dyk flew us out to play his 21st birthday party at the E-Work in Berlin, and I'd never been to Berlin, and it was on the east side, and it's this massive power station. Amazing. It just took us everywhere. It was it was just like a dream come true, really. And if you look at, I posted something the other night. Someone posted it was a Dave Angel record, and I was just like, oh yeah, God, Dave's an absolute legend. And I remember that we went on tour. He only ever did one live tour, which with us. But the DJ on the tour was Richie Hawtin, and the other one was LTJ Bookham. So it was like, that was just, we were doing that on like a Wednesday night in Hull or something at the student union. It was nuts. And then we got to tour with Aphex Twin, came on tour with us as a DJ, and we had Ortega supporting us. We went around Scandinavia doing that, and those were amazing gigs. I think Ortega are just unbelievable. I saw them, none of their kit turned up, and I saw them program their entire set before they came on hired equipment, and it was just note perfect. Sean and Rob are two absolute legends. They really are.
Yeah, Ortega and Plaid.
Yeah.
To again with yourselves, two of my favorite bands, just because the again, to see electronic music played live is such a thrill for me.
Totally.
In the early days, people have banded about they're not musicians because they play sequences, drum machines, but it takes a lot of work to program those. And to see them live, like Ortega is, I think they're coming to Austin, I think October. So I've never seen them live. I've seen Plaid live quite a few times, but Ortega, I have all their albums, and it's just it's so intricate to
amazing.
I would love to get inside their brain. Same with Richard, Aphex Twin. Like
Yeah.
how he does some of the stuff he does. I mean, I saw one time he was he DJ'd and he was using sandpaper.
Yeah, with an angle grinder and stuff like that. I know.
That's mental.
Oh, I know.
Who like today? I'm sure today it'd be like, oh, that's a novelty. Somebody's doing that. But back in the day,
Yeah.
just going,
Oh,
what
I know.
is he doing?
Yeah,
It
totally.
all made sense. I think
Yeah,
everything kind of made sense. But now for you,
yeah.
obviously, you've worked with Sasha and Baz asked me to ask you. I don't know if you can say it on air.
Look out.
Park it in the shade story.
Oh, that's bad.
Is that good or bad? Is it?
Obviously the track "Park It in the Shade," which became a Sasha record, it's something that I wrote on my laptop, and we all finished off together in the studio in New York. And yeah, the "Park It in the Shade" reference comes to a fact where I think it was on my stag do in Ibiza, and there were 5 of us in a Jeep, and we were all a bit worse for wear. We had a big lunch, and we were on our way to DC-10. And I think I'd been out in Miami for the Winter Music Conference just before. Anyway, I was a bit worse for wear. I was driving, so I pulled into the car park at DC-10, and there's these 2 guys in high-vis jackets. And I just pull up the Jeep, get out the Jeep, run over to them and hand them the keys and say, "Can you park it in the shade, please, mate?" It was the Guardia Civil. So the military police. So the next thing I know, we're all spread-eagled over the bonnet. Everyone's being searched. So that's where "Park It in the Shade" comes from.
Gotcha.
That was about 20 odd years ago. Anyway, so that's where it came from. So it was Sasha's idea to call the record that, because we didn't know what to call it. He's like, "Come on, mate, we've got to call it "Park It in the Shade." So what a muppet. "Park It in the Shade, please, mate."
Seriously, Duncan, I think we've all been there at some point. We've all done some things that we're not proud of, but
yeah. Well, anyway, that one was immortalised in time with that record, which I think I don't know whether it's actually happening, but Sash was talking about we were going to reissue all of that the other day. Actually, I don't know whether that's actually moving forward yet, but there was talk about it on quite a good label. I can't say, but we'll see. Now I'm very proud of that body of work as well. We had an amazing time in New York. I'm not sure Baz talked about it, but the creative energy in that studio for about 3 years in New York was, there's few times in your life that you get to experience stuff like that. Just everyone just beavering away, just working on different bits and putting it together. And the result, the final result was Involver 2, which I still think is just, it's a timeless record. Timeless record.
How did your relationship start with Sasha?
It was through Charlie, because obviously they did Expander, which went top 3, and then Charlie went and lived with him for quite a while and was making music, and they did everything, Air Drawn Dagger and all of that. And I went and stayed out in Amsterdam while they were making Air Drawn Dagger with Chunky XL, hung out there for a bit, got to know Sash a bit. A couple of times I went round to his house when he was in Henley with my ARC 2600 and just made up sounds for them, and just sat in the living room and just drinking beer and making bonkers sounds and just putting it all in a drive. And slowly over time we got to know each other, and ended up various gigs with him in America when I was out there. I was in LA at the same time, and that's when he introduced me to Ableton, actually, when he just sort of discovered it in a hotel room. I think we were up all night just nerding over it. It was and it just it sort of kind of just, I think after they did the Belong remix on Involver 1, that was when there was some real magic with that, and Sash loved Belong. And then when we did Open, he got really behind that as well. Even in a main set, he was just dropping some of I can't remember the names of the tracks on it. And there was a really soulful track, New Light. That's right. He would drop that in the middle of a big set, and the place would go nuts. And he was really, really supportive, and always had been. Right through Northern Exposure, all of the Renaissance compilation, all of that. We've got tracks all over those, and so and then it just sort of fell into place. And suddenly, the next thing I know, I'm out in New York. And I lived in a hotel for 3 weeks at once when we were first doing the first stuff, and I was married then, and then it all got sort of. Then I just started being out there more and more, and then my missus got pregnant, and I was still out in New York on a mate's sofa, and then in the end I moved her out for the last bit of the pregnancy, and that's when we did Involver 2. It came in December, and we just did the whole thing in about 4 months. There were lots of sort of bits and pieces lying around, and we just got Sash focused, and we put it together. And he's amazing to work with. I mean, really, really amazing. It was just such a creative time. We were so burnt out after it, though. I mean, I remember going down to Miami, and the night that he was showcasing the album, I just went to bed. I was burnt out. I just couldn't. It was like. But funny enough, 1:30 in the morning, I think about 1 in the morning, the phone rings, and it's Baz going, "Dunk, have you got the backup copies? All the equipment's gone down." So I had to get out of bed and go to the venue and basically save the night. And I remember at the end of the night, the lights came on, and Sasha was standing ovation. He pulls me up and goes, gets on the mic and goes, "I want to introduce you to DJ Bacon Saver." Because if I hadn't got out of the hotel room with all those files, he wouldn't have had the gig that night. So anyway, a bit of
I love hearing those stories. I mean, I've had Baz on, and we've stayed in touch because I mean he lives in Dallas, which is
in Dallas. I know. I
miss him. Away from me.
I really miss him. We chat every now and again on the phone. I miss him, and we need to get together and do some music together as well.
Yeah, you do. I mean, I loved his. He was telling me, like, for me, he's the glue that held the Barbican gig together. Because again, I think yourself and obviously Sasha's the main man, the main character. It's who's around him. Bart was behind the scenes, making sure all the plugins were together. I call him the glue that holds everything together.
Totally. Well, we were basically a band in New York. We were a band, and it was originally going to be called Coma, but obviously the management and everyone got the alarm bell started ringing because it wasn't going to have Sasha's name on it. Obviously, I mean we were delusional. It had to have his brand, But we were a band working together on all of that. There's some amazing tracks that didn't make it as well. There was a Chemical Brothers one, and there's a Flaming Lips one, which unfortunately I think the parts disappeared for, because that would have been so good had we managed to finish it. But we didn't make it to the album, and then we all went our separate ways afterwards. I mean, I had my first kid, so my world changed completely. It's a shame. We built all that head of steam, and then it all sort of dissipated after that. But the music's there, which is the important bit,
Yeah, well, I mean, even Baz has said, like, there was an opportunity kind of for Sasha to tour with the band.
Yeah.
And when he played a couple of gigs, I mean, America is such a huge place that would have sold out, 100%. And it's, I obviously didn't go to it, and all I can watch is the YouTube, live version, and you can see on people's faces the joy of listening, and obviously the most iconic moment for me is Charlie playing the piano.
Yeah, totally. When he's up front, well, Sash said, "Look, I finally managed to put Charlie up front." No, it was a shame. The thing is with Sash is his life's so full on. He's so busy. He's doing so much, and he's one of the most successful DJs in the world. So the whole band thing, I don't know, I'm trying to speak out of turn for him, but it's quite full on having all of that when he can just jump on a plane and go and do the gigs anyway. I mean, it was brilliant when we were in New York. Charlie and I toured with him and John. They were doing these big world tours, and we were there. We were with them. We were warming up for like 3-4 hours before they came on, and that was just such fun as well. We went everywhere with them. I think when it came to the end, we'd done enough of all of that together, and it was time for everyone to go and do their own thing. But I don't think, unfortunately, I think it'd be so difficult to try and put all of that back together again, because our lives have all got so much more complicated since then. We've all got kids for a start. Well, Charlie hasn't, but the rest of us all have. And okay, maybe when we're in our 70s, when the kids have kind of left, or 60s or whatever, when the kids have flown the nest, maybe, who knows. I'm just really enjoying making music with Charlie again. I mean, we've got good vibes going.
See, that's the thing I have wanted to hear from you. More spooky stuff finally. So when you're in the studio now,
Yeah.
is it more you start like a jam session to see hear the ideas?
Yeah, well, yes and no. It's all different, really. But I mean, we actually have. I haven't told anyone this yet, but we actually do have a new spooky album which we just finished. So first, but yeah, first one since 2007. So yeah, and it was all made in here, and in Charlie's studio, because it started off as little ideas that we were both doing, and we were just sending stuff back to. I remember it was one track just started off. It sort of morphed out of what we were doing when we recreated Orange Colour Liquid for Alex Cassian, because we didn't. That's another story. We didn't have any parts for that. When I put down the phone to Paul and said, yeah, fine, you can do a remix. I was like, oh shit, we haven't got any parts at all, nothing, because they're all on floppy disks, somewhere. We don't have anything to recreate that, all gone. So we actually, between me and Charlie, over the space of about 3 weeks last September, totally recreated Orange Colour Liquid from the ground up to give to Alex to then do what he did. And off the back of that, we started working on these sort of arpeggio things, and one track morphed out of that, and that morphed into something else. And it doesn't sound anything like Orange Colour Liquid. I mean, but it's got a certain warmth to it, and it's about, yeah, it's just it's a journey. The album starts off very mellow and slow, and then just builds and builds and builds and builds, and then ends up with something quite groovy. But anyway, that's going to be September. So we just finished the artwork yesterday. Been working on that with my mate Matt out here, who does all my stuff for my label, all my little films and stuff. So yeah, there's a new record, which is it feels good.
Oh, that's music to my ears.
Yeah.
That is like brilliant news. I knew there was maybe something coming, and I'll tell you what, that Alex Cassian has done an absolutely amazing job on.
Yeah, he's
John Beltran as well.
John Beltran's mix is just off the charts.
Yeah,
it's like, I mean, it's like that. It's up there with that Carl Craig's tracks, 69 or whatever it is. It's one of those. It's just John, I wrote to John afterwards. I was almost in tears when the first time I heard that, literally, because I was like, oh my god, this is what Alex did was so beautiful and so amazing. And I got over the shock of how good that was. And then when John's mix came in,
yeah,
right, and it was unmastered at the time, and yeah, he's just. I mean, I've been buying all his little 7-inches he's been doing recently, and I just loved his stuff anyway. So it was Paul's idea, and we weren't sure whether we were going to be able to afford him or not. But anyway, he was up for doing it, and he knocked it out of the park completely. So it's such a timeless record, and it is just selling bucket loads. I mean, it's unbelievable. It's really, really good news. It's just such good vibes.
It's hit on so many different levels. I'm in so many different groups. I'm in a prog group. I'm in a Balearic group.
Yeah.
Even trip hop, and breaks, and it's all in there. Everyone has done. Have you heard this Placid Angles, John Belcher? It's like, it's so emotional.
It's beautiful. It's just he's just had an incredible response to our music, John, on that. And Alex is off the chart as well, but John's was the one that was the surprise because it came later, Yeah, it's just so beautiful the way he replayed the chords, and you don't even really notice it, and then suddenly it's like, yeah, of course,
Mhm.
and just the rhythm and everything. So no, that's a timeless record. So we're very 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 excited about that, and it's sold a lot. The pre-sale was huge. It's been selling thousands. I mean, you don't do that anymore.
Mm.
Yeah, really excited about that. And off the back of that, I went and saw Alex. Actually, I went and saw him play with Mad Professor. He was doing E2 E4 live at the Jazz Cafe. I didn't tell the label or anything. I just bought tickets and I went with some mates, and uh, it was amazing. And anyway, halfway through the show, I just texted Paul, who I thought was out in LA, and he was there at the gig. He's like, "Oh, well, you got to come say hello." Anyway, so I went down after the show, and Paul wasn't around. I didn't know where he was. But Alex was there signing autographs. So I just went over and tapped him on the shoulder, and we just yeah, we were in the pub till about 2 in the morning. I think it's just great. He's a beautiful soul, and yeah, he said it's one of the nicest things to me. He said, "I just consider myself the custodian of your music to pass it on to another generation." I mean, it was so beautiful. I mean, anyway. So off the back of that, I just said, well, Ty and I are working together again. I've got a studio kind of, quite near a beach. I'm there. So he's coming over here late, probably in the new year, I think. I think he's going to have a kid. But anyway, so that's a beautiful connection. So we're going to I just said, look, just come and experiment. No pressure. See where we get on, where we end up. Just with me and Charlie, you and Hero, who is sidekick in what's that band is in, some Sun with two N's. I can't remember what the name of it. It's an amazing track. Let me just get up Spotify. Opal Sun. You remember that record?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, beautiful. Anyway, so because I met Hero at the gig as well, and he's really really cool dude, and I loved what they were doing, how they were playing live. It was proper live, and I was just like, you guys have got to do more of this live thing, and I think they're starting to now. He's a real talent.
Mm.
And he's breathed some fresh energy into us, which is great.
Are you
So
are you are you very particular about remixes?
yeah. What about people that do them of us, or
A bit of both.
I'm only particular about what we release. I mean, people bootleg our stuff all the time, and I've got too bothered about that. But we got sent one recently by Damien Chicken, Unbroken One, and I stuck it out. It's brilliant. It's a mix of Belong. John Diggers was playing it, and John told him to send me a copy, and I'm like, yeah, that's brilliant, Damien. Damien used to license stuff off us when he was working at Channel 4. So we had a bit of a connection, and he did a great job. So I've just put some of those up on Bandcamp, and I'm going to put it into the mix and get it out for the beginning of July everywhere else, just a single track. But it's a great summer record. Everyone's playing it. Hernan's playing it. Nick Warren's playing it. So again, yeah. I mean, if I don't like it, it'd be quite hard to put it out. But he was very respectful with it. And yeah, sounds great. So we just got it mastered and just put it out. So yeah.
Yeah, it, that's the biggest thing, I think, when somebody takes something that you've put your heart and soul in and they tweak it, and
Yeah, totally. Well, we've turned a few down in the past. When we were with A&M, we had one of the guys from Groove Armada did a mix which we didn't like. Yeah, that was a bit embarrassing. Just wasn't our bag. And that Coxie did a mix as well of Stereo, which actually was great. It sounded more like a bootleg. You just put another breakbeat behind it. But that was in the throes of us falling out with A&M, so that never saw the light of day. And Alex Reese did a mix, which was amazing, which I've still got a DAT somewhere, which I should probably just stick up on Bandcamp because it was great. I can't remember what track it was. And then Fluke did two remixes, and when it didn't come out, they bought one back and put it out as one of their own tracks, and we got share of the publishing on it. I can't remember what the track was called either. But yeah, so remixes is a funny thing, but I love it. I love doing mixes. It's great to have a starting point, because when you're doing your own stuff, it's literally complete open book. So having a starting point is great. You can just put your own stamp on it or take it wherever you want. yeah, whether they like it or not. I mean, we remixed David Sylvian once, and he turned it down. I was gutted. It's one of my heroes. But I think we tried to make it. We tried to make it too safe bet. I think, and what he wanted was something more from found sound, and we did something more from open. It sounded like Credo and Dorfmeister or something like that. It was just a bit. Anyway, he wasn't into it, which is a shame because it was a missed opportunity.
Hey, but it's out there, that's the good thing. You have it. Before we go, I definitely want to talk about 49 North. You started 21, which is right after Jordan.
Well, it's in COVID. I think we actually started before COVID. That whole sci-fi period of all of our lives was so fucking weird. But I put out Strobe Dancer was the first track I put out, and I think that might have even been 2019. I'm not quite sure. I've been doing a lot of stuff with Lol, and then I just wanted to start making dance floor stuff again. So yeah, no, that was it. And the label, it's great. I mean, I just did it really very quietly, but it's building now. It's the Bandcamp now is suddenly starting to move. It's taken like 4 years for people to realise who I am and what it is and where it is. And there's some great remixes on there. I mean, I got some really, really good people on it. I mean, Colin did some brilliant mixes, and the Pepe's mix is just off the chart. And then there's that Cooper Saber mix, which is just amazing, which Sean Johnson picked up on and was caning it down at Alphos. And so yeah, no, it's my love now. That's my label. That's what I'm putting all my energy into. So all the spooky stuff's going to come out on it. I've just done a EP with Adam Freeland actually, which I've just been finishing off, which is quite exciting.
Oh, wow. And see, Adam's off the grid. He
is. Yeah. He's off the grid, but he's on my grid because without wanting to give too much away, we spend a certain amount of the year in the same place on off grid. We've got mates that live somewhere where we all go, and this all happened by accident. But so this EP's come out of that. But yeah, no, he is literally off grid. But he's going to be, I don't know. He's doing some festivals this summer. He's doing the Balance Festival, he's just I think you're going to see quite a bit of music coming from him. Fingers crossed.
That's good.
We've done an EP which I'm really into actually. So just been finishing that, so I can now focus on the spooky stuff for a bit. But yeah, no, I don't know when we're going to put that out. Yeah, I've actually got to talk to him a bit later.
He's someone that I really got into just because Marine Parade. The New School Breaks, it was again something that I'd not heard before because it was gritty and dirty. The bass lines were just absolutely insane. And then, obviously he did the band. I saw him. There's a festival every year here called South by Southwest, and he came and played to an absolutely packed crowd. And he was the little rock star that night. But he's just so down to earth. I had a nice chat with him that night. But then all of a sudden he vanished, and everyone was like, "Where's Adam Freeland go?" And then I read he was off the grid and just wanted to get away from everything.
He did one of his famous disappearing acts.
But he'd put out like a mix tape or a mix, once a year, and he's just got it. Everybody. Well, I mean, because everybody looked at him like the breakbeat, kid.
Totally.
He's more than that.
Yeah. Well, I first met Adam. Before he was actually making music. He was a music journalist, and he interviewed me and Charlie. And I think it was around the time of Stereo and those EPs, and then he did that Coastal Breaks record, which I think was the thing that really launched his career, and it had Relief on it off the Clank EP. He put that on there, it's bonkers. I just bumped into him again by accident about 7-8 years ago, and now I see him every year. And anyway, we made this record, and pretty excited about it. But we're going to work out where that's going to come out, whether that's going to be 49 North or whether he might put it out on his label. I don't know. It's all early doors with that at the moment.
Well, it's just great to hear, you're putting out like a lot of music, September, you said.
Yeah, the one thing I should talk about, the next thing I've got coming out is on the summer solstice, actually on the 20th of June, so not far away. Where are we now? I don't even know. We're in June already. Yeah, it's I've got this album. I've done an album. It's like a sort of, well, I got a call yesterday from the distributor going, do you mind if we relabel the genre of your new album? Because we've all had a listen to it, which is a first. They never normally listen to it. They just stick it up. And, well, maybe they do. Maybe I'm running them down, but I never hear from them. It just goes up. And so apparently it's a neoclassical record. So I'd put ambient electronica or something, in my old school way. But so it's an album, 10 tracks. It's called Awake in the Dreamtime, and which is a COVID reference, really. Or lockdown reference, whatever you want to look at it. And I've done it with my mate Jonathan Hill, who is a virtuoso violinist extraordinaire. It's the only way to describe him. I mean, he's got an ego the size of the planet. The first time I hooked up with him, he said, "I can't wait to enlighten you with the joys of my playing." That was his opening gambit, and I was like, "Okay, this guy's going to be interesting." Anyway, we hit it off straight away. He's from East London, and he was like #1 violinist on Les Miserables in the West End for 8 years. He's played with, you name it, Lloyd Webber. He plays at Abbey Road, and I get him to break the rules because he can play anything, left-handed, backwards, So I get him. We tune down the instruments. I've done film score with him recently as well, and so we made this album, and it's really beautiful. I'm really chuffed with it. It's about 10 tracks. Every track's got its own little sort of Super 8 kind of abstract, sort of loopy based kind of thing, but for the whole track, not just like a minute or 30 seconds, which my mate Matt's done, which we put together. And that's coming out on the 20th. There's a very limited run of vinyl that's coming out on 49 North through Rubber Dub up in Glasgow. They do all my vinyl now. And I'm doing a show out here actually at the local arts centre where it's like a listening event, screening, and then I'm just going to play some ambient stuff, probably some more techno actually. I was just before I was on, I haven't DJed for a while, so I'm just gonna, and then there's a little venue afterwards where we're just going to have a lock-in for the solstice and just play some house music all night long, so which I haven't done for ages. So a celebration of this record. So yeah, I'll forward you some info on that once I've got it together. It's all a bit last minute usually, as usual with my own label. Just get up to the wire, getting all the bits and pieces ready. But it's so it's piano and treated strings and just synths and yeah, it's kind of so it's different for me, but it's very much inspired by Erased Tapes and all that, Nils Fram and all the Hanya Rani and all those kind of amazing virtuosos played in a slightly Luddite kind of lo-fi way and through all my bits of kit. So yeah, it was good fun. Anyway, so that's the next one.
Oh, I look forward to, I think I've got me year planned out now with music. God. But Duncan, it's been an absolute pleasure, mate.
It's so lovely to chat. I very rarely do stuff like this. So well done for pestering me.
Well, when
in a gentle way, it was good. I was like, no, it's a really nice thing to do.
Well, when I really appreciate, I've had so many great guests on, but I do pester them, not to the point where they're just like, please go away, But it's
a reminder.
Well, yeah, but I do it because I really want to hear your stories because, again, you are a big part of my musical landscape, I don't know how old you are. You're probably a few years older than me. I don't know.
I think you said you're about to be 54. Yeah, I'm about 2 years older than you.
Yeah, so we come from the same school, you know
Yeah,
what I
yeah.
mean? And, Spooky was it was the start of my journey. And, again,
Nice to know.
it's your album I keep going back to. And, I do my Friday night little DJ sets for me kids. And
Yeah,
I play Little Bullet quite a few times. I get requests off my dad
yeah.
to play it.
Excellent.
There's so many different mixes now.
Yeah,
There's
yeah.
I don't know. Have you heard the Cemetery mix?
No.
Oh,
What, a little bullet?
yeah, it's
Oh, send it to me. Yeah, no,
yeah, yeah.
I want to
It's
hear these.
it's very dubby,
Okay, nice.
and it has, it really minimal, but
Yeah, yeah.
it's really cool how they've done the effects on it. I'll
Oh,
send
I
it.
know. I'd love to hear that. Yeah, no, I love it when people do things like that.
Yeah, I found that on SoundCloud, and I was like,
Okay.
I'm having that. Like,
Yeah, yeah, cool.
it's
That's
just
good. I
it's
think we came out of sampling. People that I mean, obviously there were a lot of lawsuits kind of in the end of the '90s, and but we all I love the sort of recycling nature of that, and the fact that they've done that and puts focus on our record, introduces it to other people, and that's cool. It's all positive stuff. I think I'm going to do I might do like a limited 12 actually. I think I might reissue the high velocity mix of Little Bullet. I've just done an edit of a track we did called Whoosh, which was a remix we did on Brainiac, fun enough, the label I was, and I think I'm going to bang out like something that will look a bit like a bootleg, but it'll be us, just with two of our old tracks with this updated. This is a bit of a banger actually. Whoosh. I think I might do that at some point, just vinyl and Bandcamp. Just keep it off Spotify, but just do it. And I think that might be good because there's just a renewed interest in all of it. But no, please send me that, man.
Yeah, 100% will. Yeah, I'll write it down just to remind me. I have to
Keep in
remind.
touch. You've had some great people on. You had Howie on as well, didn't you? I saw.
Yeah, oh, Howie just again,
I haven't seen him
even
for years.
even though like, again, it's music and football. I
Yeah,
try and bring on people that like both.
yeah,
But at
yeah,
the end of the day, I love both. So if
yeah, yeah. 100%.
and again, I've got Yags Kuna from Sabres
Oh,
coming on,
brilliant.
and I'm
They just played the Sydney Opera House 2 nights ago.
yeah,
I sent them a message about that. Yeah, no, that's so great that they're out there doing that. I'm
and I
hoping,
know
I'm hoping that they're going to play Convenanza down in Carcassonne in September. The festival that was all set up around Andrew. I'm just hoping they're going to do that. The lineup hasn't been around because I've got some tickets. That's my mecca. I go down there. Glastonbury's too big for me now. I go down to Carcassonne and just get stuck in down there. Just yeah,
well,
listen.
I think they wanted to test the waters with
Yeah,
because I
well, it's
think
going to blow up. I mean, left
playing
field have been
Spain.
as well.
I think they play Barcelona tonight, or
They're
one.
playing somewhere in Spain tonight. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So I think they're just testing the waters, and then because it's a mini tour.
Yeah.
Yaga's telling me that they'll be done by mid-June, so I think
Okay.
they're testing the waters, and I would think they'll play some festivals this
Yeah,
summer.
yeah,
So
yeah.
I mean, it's just great to hear them back on the road. I mean, it's been
100%.
what
I think,
30 years as well.
yeah, at least. Yeah, at least.
Ah, What
Yeah.
what about a Spooky and Sabres tour? Oh,
We did a saber-toothed dog tour, funnily enough, once, which what Andrew was DJing on, and and yeah, and Nina. This is Andrew and Nina, Woodley Research Facility. That's the T-shirt I'm wearing proudly, supporting Nina. But yeah, so yeah, that's an interesting one. Yeah, right now, I've got to be honest, the idea of playing live again fills me with horror. But never say never. Who knows? We're gonna get the record out. I've already started on another one actually, so we're flowing. I was doing one last night actually. I'm gonna send over to Charlie. So yeah, let's see what happens.
yeah.
Thanks, man.
Well,
Thanks for having me on.
oh, you're more than welcome, and like I said, it's my pleasure. If you want to check out Duncan's music, go to duncanforbes.bandcamp.com, or any streaming service that you you listen to. But I appreciate Duncan coming on. I appreciate everyone for listening. Please like, subscribe, put your notifications on. As I always say, and I know you probably get bored of it, but go check out some new artists that you've never heard, but also go back and check out some artists from back in the day as well, because you'll be surprised at how good some of this music is. And as this world is a little crazy, please look after yourselves and stay safe. And I'll see you next time. And look for upcoming episodes with Andy Barlow from Lamb, Yangs Kuna from Sabres at Paradise, and Nick Muir of Bedrock fame. Until next time, see you later.